All right, good morning, people of YouTube. So we are back again today with some physical cards for BT10, and this time we have a deck profile for Xross Heart. This is the deck that people are expecting to be the best deck in the format. A couple players are thinking that as the format progresses, maybe that deck will be Minerva Loop, but at least at the beginning of the format, this is the deck that is expected to have the most results. This deck is very strong, very fast. It's pretty consistent. It can kind of brick sometimes. We have created a build that is optimized for not bricking, in lieu of some of the other tech choices, and we'll go ahead and get into some of that. But yeah, make sure you guys like and comment, and we will go ahead and to get into some of the card choices. So for the eggs, you have to play 4 Pikmon. This card lets you draw cards, and all of your rookies evolve over Xross Heart, so there's no other egg you can play. So we got 4 of that. We're going to go with the Digimon from the top down. Got 3 copies of Xross 5. This is one of your boss monsters. It is the more expensive one to play, so you only play 3 of it. The better boss monster that we play is 4 copies of Xross 4. If you pull this off, you're only playing it for 1, you're drawing 2, and then you pop it at the end of your attack, and then put all your sources away, and then do it again. So these are your main cards that you're swinging with, and you will lose many games to these cards, this format. So for the other Digicross components, we got 4 copies of Darulu. This card's really nice because it can actually pop floodgates like Solarmon and Psychmon whenever you play it. And you can get that from your sources if you play the Akari. So this is a really good card and one of the more important cards in the deck. We got 4 copies of Ballistamon. Having an int archetype blocker, very strong. Having an int archetype blocker that gives us piercing, even stronger. These are the only other level 4s we play. So it's just Digicross components from here. And whenever you build this deck, you'll notice that there are a lot of just cards that are just mandatory 4-ofs. And that kind of fills out most of the deck space. So don't feel obligated to make this deck super creative, because this deck has like 40 mandatory slots, so there's not really that much room for creativity. My advice, this deck can brick a lot because you only have rookies that can evolve on top of this Pikmon. And sometimes you won't have anything beneficial to play off your Tamers. So you want to optimize your builds that you're drawing more cards early game, and you're able to remove floodgates when you see them. And that's kind of how I built this deck. So going into the rookie lineup, we got 4 copies of Shoutmon. This is a Searcher, as well as your most important inheritable skill, giving your cross Digimon Rush. We got 4 copies of Starmons. Lets you draw cards. It's really nice. We got 3 copies of Sparrowmon. So you can get away playing 3 copies of this because it's only necessary for the Xross 5. It is big whenever it swings, and it does give your stack reboot. It's a good card, but it's not necessary at 4. And I feel like the little drum boy, Don Dokomon, at 2 in this deck makes this deck a little bit more consistent. So let me explain. Turn 1 Fireball is probably the best play you have when going first with this deck. So if you want to activate Fireball turn 1, you need a red card in play or in raising. So if you evolve Pikmon into Dondoko or Shoutmon, you have 6 cards that you can open that can facilitate the turn 1 Fireball play. This card is also an easy red source so that you can activate Sunrise Buster. I think having the red Digimon in the level 3 lineup is pretty key. I will get into some other choices that you could play if you don't like this, but this also allows us to have 13 rookies in the deck, which you'll notice is significantly more than most Xross Heart decks play. Most Xross Hearts are just playing these 11 rookies, and I feel like that makes your deck susceptible to bricking turn 1. So I really like my rookie lineup. And that's what I've elected to play. So going on to the Tamers, we got 4 copies of Taiki. It's a Searcher, as well as one of your main combo enablers, letting you cross from your sources. This card is mandatory at 4, so is 4 copies of Akari. This card lets you draw cards, as well as play a Darulu. This is the only cross tamer that isn't mandatory at 3, the Zenjiro Tsurugi. So the only reason that we're not playing 4 of this card is because it is a green tamer. So it doesn't add to our DP reduction for Sunrise Buster. We can't play it off of Sunrise Buster. And the only thing this card is really good for is gaining more memory whenever you're going for your big push, or sometimes cheating out a Ballistamon. But cheating out a Digimon with the Ikari and the Zenjiro is not consistent early game, so you shouldn't bank on activating that effect of these tamers. So for that reason, I'm playing 3 copies of this, because you only really need 1 or 2 in play to be able to pop off and go for game. And sometimes you don't even really need this card. So that's it for the Xross Heart Tamers. We also play a single copy of Tai Kamiya. This card lets our big stacks push for more damage. And it's also a memory tamer. And a red tamer for the Sunrise Buster and for the Fireball. So this is a good card, but I don't think it's necessary. Security Attack +1 is great. Being set to 3 is great. But this deck functions very well off of very little memory. So very few times will you just pay 4 for this. Most of the time you're playing this off of the Sunrise Buster if you don't have like a Taiki to play. And for that reason, I think this is one of the worst tamers in the deck. But it being a red tamer is pretty important for the Sunrise Buster calculations, so I'm not playing Kirihara. I think that's its name. Is it Kirihara? We're going to find this live. Kiriha, yeah. So I feel like this card is better than the Kiriha just for the sole fact that it factors into the Sunrise Buster calcs. So next, we got 2 copies of the Tai and Kari from BT10. This card's great. You're rushing your opponent down pretty early. One of the advantages also of playing 13 rookies is you're more likely to open one, and you're more likely to get an early swing off with one, putting your opponent down to that 3 threshold for Tai and Kari to trigger. But this card also has another function that it makes it so that your opponent's security is padded a little bit whenever you're swinging with Cross 4 and Cross 5, because while Cross 5 is a big, powerful boss monster, it's still only 10,000. So sometimes you will die on your first check just by virtue of this card being kind of weak for a boss monster. Tai and Kari helps you mitigate that a little bit. And that's it for the Tamers. I'm playing the 11 Xross Heart Tamers and then 14 total. And this gives us 11 total red and yellow Tamers for the Sunrise Buster plays. So for the options, I've alluded to it a lot. We got 4 copies of Sunrise Buster. This card should have been limited to 1. This card is absurd. Best case scenario, you're playing this, and then playing like an Ikari, and then playing a Darulumon, and then you're popping something with this, you're further reducing something with the Darulumon, and you're drawing a card with the Ikari, or, maybe you play a Mikey, and you get the Mikey effect to search and then shove something under one of your Tamers. This card is just phenomenal, and it helps you clear big stacks, it breaks boards. If decks don't see this coming, they will just lose to it, and even if they do see it coming, sometimes since you're playing 4 of it, them just hitting it in security will happen, and they will just lose the game. And then we have the true best card in the deck. We got 4 copies of Fireball. Now, some people really hate this card, and some people will find me playing 4 copies of this card excessive. But you really want to see this turn 1. And this deck really gets hurt by cards like Psychmon and Solarmon, and you need to be able to clear them for cheap and efficient, and as early as possible. So having the Fireballs to do that is a good way to make sure that you don't lose to those cards. So I don't think I would play any less than 4 of this, especially since I'm playing the Dondoko. But if your opinion about Fireball is different than mine, you could drop the Dondoko for a 4th copy of Sparrow and a yellow rookie, cut these 2 Fireballs, and play 2 copies of Crimson Blaze. But I have tried that, and sometimes you just lose to brick hands early game, where Fireball really helps you draw into more pieces. I guess something to consider as well, while the Zenjiro and Ikari are both very good to have, using their effect to play a Digimon from your hand is very unlikely turn 1 or 2. You won't typically open both Akari and the Darulu, but let's say you open a Shoutmon and a Fireball, or you open a Shoutmon, you evolve, and then you draw into the Fireball. Now you can draw some more cards, and then maybe on your next turn, the Akari or the Zenjiro's effect to do that is live. This card helps set up early games, and if you draw this turn 1, you are most likely going to win. So that's all I have to say about the 50 cards that I am playing. I do have some other choices for you guys if you guys want to play some other cards. We've already talked about the Crimson Blaze and the Sparrowmon swap. The other rookie that I would consider for the Don Doko would be either a Starmons from BT5 or a Pillow from BT9. Pillowmon is really cool because it kind of shuts down Minervamon and Jessmon because it says all players, or on all turns, players can't play cards, or can't play Digimon by card effects. So it stops Jessmon from playing Sisters, it stops Minerva from doing their graveyard shenanigans. Pillow's a really good choice this meta. Starmons is also kind of a combo piece. While it is not a Xross Heart card, so if you evolve this on your Pikmons and promote it, you won't be able to draw if you swing. But you can play this and kill something like a Psychmon or a Solarmon, or just anything that's holding you back. And then you can absorb it through Digicross with Shoutmon Cross 4 because it is a Starmon's card. So that is nice. Crimson Blaze is probably the card that I want to put in this deck the most. I just feel like the Sunrise Buster and the Pyro Ball give you better forms of removal. So the other Tamers, I've alluded to it. You could play the Kiriha. This card is alright for essentially being a 5th copy of Hero, or a 5th copy of Taiki, as well as being a Memory Tamer. However, it is blue, and for that reason, I don't like it. You could play Hero. Hero makes your level 5s bigger whenever you swing, but it doesn't make Cross 4 bigger. So for that reason, I don't like this card. I'd rather play the Taikamiya. You could play Heroes of the Skies. This card is actually grabbable with the Taiki effect, and that is nice. However, it doesn't trigger Insecurity, and it doesn't give you the option to pop like Solarmon or Psychmon. So for that reason, I think the Fireball is strictly better. But if you want more copies of Fireball, you could elect to play this. Death Xmon makes every deck better this format. I did not have the room to play this card in this deck because I chose to make this deck a little bit more consistent in the early game, and this is a brick in the early game. But the reason people are playing this card is for this matchup specifically. So if you find yourself losing or fearing the mirror match, include this card in your list. It's a great option, and it doesn't make any deck weaker. And then the last card I want to go over is Shoutmon King version. This card wasn't in the deck list because I didn't have it. No, I pulled this card. I just think this card is kind of ass. The ability to do the King of the Swamp thing is really cool, but it only works on the turn that you play this card, and the cheapest you can play this card is for 3 memory. And that's a lot, man. If you're having to substitute a material to go into a Digicross, it better win you the game. And if you're paying 3 memory to do this first, that just expends a lot of your resources in order to go for that big push. I guess this card is cool because it is treated as a Shoutmon card, so you could just use this as a Shoutmon for your Digicross as a 5th copy if you want to play this in hand. But the fact that this card doesn't substitute for any material whenever this card is in your hand is an absolute travesty. This card would have deserved the secret rare slot if it had that capability, but because it doesn't, I feel like this card is garbage, and I have elected not to play it. Let me know if you think I'm wrong in the comments, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.